Hello, good evening. It's almost 32 degrees in this flat, but I'm on my own, and I decided I want to do some more hammer stuff because it's been a long time since I've done that. And I've been doing a fair amount of Left 4 Dead 2 map making over the last sort of 3 or 4 days. Because I've got this campaign, which I have been working on since about 2010, on and off, and I'm trying to go through it and kind of give it an actual detailing sort of pass so that maybe I could actually release it and make it into something. So that's what I've been doing lately, and texturing and adding details to areas that I hadn't added details to yet. And I decided I'm going to record some of it so that then maybe it'll be helpful to people who are looking to get into Hammer and work out how best to detail things and how to make funky shit like this, and archways and so on. So basically, I'm just going to start from where I got to before, which was did a little bit this lunchtime while I was on break from work, and we have so the main sort of overview of this level is you start here, and it's kind of like a sewer system that goes underneath the river, and so you kind of come. Tell you what, let's turn no off so you can actually see what's going on. Go down stairs all the way sort of through here, and you get to a point up this drainage pipe here, which is activated by, is it this trigger? I think it's this trigger. Yeah, so when someone reaches here, it basically triggers a director-based decision. I think it's basically a random choice, but it chooses which of these 3 drainage pipes will be open, and so which route you can use to get through the map. There's no particular advantage to either one. I just wanted to add a bit of variety, and if you do it through a director query, it means that if you're in a versus game, it will come out with the same outcome for both teams when they go through the level, which is what you want to make the runs identical. So that trigger sends an input to here, this sends an output value to here, and then this basically calls one of these 3 relays, which unblocks one of the pipes. And this used to not really be that interesting, because I put this, I'm pretty sure I made this map probably in sort of December 2010, because I remember being on holiday when I was doing it. And this bit was kind of like, I don't know, I just wanted to block out something that would involve the kind of 3-way decision. I hadn't really decided on what kind of setting it was going to be, so this lunchtime I just kind of wrote a bit of stuff down about how I felt it would fit into the general theme of this map. And basically the outcome of that is that we're going to have this central route here, which goes directly into the generator room. These will be spinning, pretty sure. Yes, they're set to spin. So that'll be just like a power providing room, and then this side will end up in a storeroom with a lot of fuel tanks, so it'd be like fuel for generators and stuff, so then I can make use of petrol cans and propane canisters, which you can then use on, I know before when I played this through with friends, we've had tanks in this kind of area, so if you need to fight a tank, that'll probably be useful. And then the other way I was going to have go into like an item storage, item room sort of thing, and potentially make use of the passing style infinite pickup locker things. They're called foot lockers, where it's basically a locker full of items and they just respawn infinitely. And so you either get that one which takes you to the petrol cans and stuff, that one which takes you to the items, or neither. And you go straight through. So technically, if you get the middle route, it's going to be slightly less advantageous, but I don't really care. It's not going to be advantageous enough for me to want to balance it against how angry the director is at that point in time, so I'm just going to pick randomly. And these doors that lead to the other rooms will be blocked off. So the first thing I'm going to do, because I was midway through adjusting this room, is just make it so that the centre line is down the middle there, which basically means I'm just going to have to shift that door slightly. The shape of the room is going to be different to how it used to be. I would like to have the manhole cover here, straight down the centre of the room. So we're just going to resize these. I'm going to switch neutral back on. So I'm going to put that right to there. Move those right down to there. Okay. So quick kind of overview of how this actually works. I wanted to avoid trapping potentially special infected, like player special infected in these tunnels when the decision is made. So I didn't want to have them all open and then close off 2. I wanted to have them all closed and then open up 1. So then that stops, it basically eliminates the possibility of trapping people in whichever bits you close up. So what we have here, let's the green is soft, it's annoying. We have, okay, tell you what, let's have a look at the mid relay. We have mid brush. This is, I think, a clip. No, it's, oh okay, it's a clip and also the bars that come down the middle. It's kind of difficult to see. So that is basically to prohibit people and zombies from getting in there. So it will kill that off. The ladder model is this. So this is a prop dynamic that gets enabled because it would look, I don't know whether it would matter too much if it didn't get enabled, but or does it poke out the top? Maybe it pokes out the top. It almost pokes out the top. Okay, fine. Well, past me decided that needs to be dynamic prop. Doesn't matter too much. What else have we got? We disable the actual model for the cover. Is that in the right place? Yeah, it's in the right place. It's not highlighting it. I don't know why. Oh, it's because it's over there. Okay, cool. So yeah, this bit will disappear like that, so you can actually get through. We have the mid cover. Oh, okay. You have to disable it and also disable collisions, otherwise it is invisible but still collides. I'm pretty sure I remember encountering that. Right, and then we've got unblock nav for the nav blocker, which is this volume here. So basically, when this stuff is closed, you don't want zombies to still be attempting to get through, because the navigation mesh actually needs to be told to switch off in that area. It's not enough to just put a prop in the way. So that's what that does. And final one, there is, oh yes, the trigger around the front, around the manhole cover here. Basically, I was just finding it was a bit awkward to try and fit down the hole if you were going at full speed. So I put a trigger around here, so when you intersect with that trigger, it forces you to move at walking speed. And that also helps the bots aim themselves in the holes properly. So there's basically an equivalent for each of these. And depending on which one is triggered, it will unblock one of these 3 routes. So that's how that works. I'm going to move this doorway so that it's more central. So, okay, just straight up move it there. Done. And then we've got to move these up as well. Oh, and the exit sign. And then we've got to put a little bit of extra wall on the other side. Or we just shorten the corridor, I suppose. Yeah. Just move all of this, can't be asked. Right, okay, and the exit sign. Right. This can be extended. Cover the rest of that. And at some point we'll want to decide on a texture that's not just orange. But I'll do that when the room is fully constructed, because then you've got a better sense of the scale and the design and what will fit. So that's that. The manhole I can't really move because I don't want to have to mess with that. So that can stay where it is, but I will extend the room the other way. It basically mean getting rid of, what was that? No. No, it needs to be an extra. There we go. No, just make another one. Right. So basically the width of this room is pretty much defined by the generator, the spacing that was required for the generators in the door. So it's going to be, the main part's going to be that wide. I decided on my bit of paper when I was planning that I want to have a sort of archway, sort of arch roof bit over generators, because a lot of the architecture in this map has basically been themed on arches because it's sort of supposed to be underground sewer style, so we've got all this stuff going on. I've tried to make the kind of the space that the walls occupy interesting rather than just flat walls, because it's very easy to just put down flat walls when you're dev texturing, and I think it fits the theme a lot better with the arches. So what we're going to do here is make an arch in Hammer in a way that doesn't suck, and that involves mapping out exactly how wide it needs to be. So this room is 576 units wide on that axis, and what we're going to do basically is use the arch tool, which is up here, primitives arch, to make a circle, because I've always found out that when I use the arch tool for stuff like this, if you don't dimension it like 100% correctly, and I find the best way to do that is to make a circle, then it can like warp your arch and not really give you what you want. So the easiest way I find is to make a circle and then get rid of the bits you don't want. So there's a specific way to do this, or a specific way that I like to do this. The arch I'm going to have, there's not going to be any kind of width here, because usually when you specify an arch, that's not what I want to do. Come back. Right. When you specify an arch by hitting enter, you get a wall width, and I would prefer, in this particular case, that the inner edge of the arch comes right up to the kind of boundary of this room without that little kind of extra 8 inches of wall on the side. So what we're going to do is make the arch bounding rectangle slightly bigger than it needs to be, and then we will squish it to compensate once we've made the arch. So basically what we'll do is we say, okay, the room is 576 units wide, we're going to add 8 units here and 8 units here, so that makes 592 units, which means we want a 592 unit square. 592. Then make sure that we have it selected in the direction where you want to look along the arch, which is in this direction because it matches up the way we're facing. Right, then we go wall width 8 to match the extra that we've got there. Size 16, this is quite a big arch, I'm going to make it 32. Bearing in mind we're going to cut half of these away anyway. And then okay. Right, so that's what it looks like right now. I'm going to move this away just so we can see exactly what's going on. The one interesting thing about how Hammer makes stuff like this, which I didn't realise for quite a long time, is that actually all these things, even though it looks like they don't lie on the grid, if you zoom in far enough, they are actually all aligned to the 1 unit grid, which makes it easier to be able to like tessellate this geometry with other stuff that you've made. It does mean that if you make arches or circles that are quite small, then the alignment to 1 unit grid points starts to warp the shape of it, whereas here it's kind of like it looks relatively uniform in thickness. If it was quite a lot smaller, the thickness wouldn't be quite as uniform, but we don't really care here. So basically what I do, go back up to grid size 8, go to the clip tool and go, we don't want the bottom of the arch, and we don't want that quarter of the arch. So we've only got 1/4, that reduces the amount of stuff we have to do. And we're going to reduce it further by getting rid of half of these. Now, we're going to eliminate this kind of 8 unit width by, right, let's make sure this is aligned to the grid first of all, or at least up here. Okay, hold on, I didn't want to delete those quite as quickly as I did. Let's do it this way, move it out so we can see it. Okay, right, it's all aligned, that's good. Is we need to know how wide this is. So what we're going to do is take this top one and say, okay, we don't want this width here, so we're going to crush everything down so it's on that line, which means we take this out here, we move that so it becomes a triangle, and then we align the triangle with this line, which is there. And then we do that for each of these. And just basically drag all the vertices into the corner. Actually, I say we do that for each of these, we do that for half of these. And then I'll double check that Hammer hasn't made any invalid solids, because sometimes it decides not to merge the vertices properly, because this is a fucking 1999 program. I'll fix those in a minute. The rest of it doesn't matter. Okay, we're fine. It's not saying invalid solid, so that's okay. When we get rid of the rest of these, take what we've already done, clone it, flip it, turn it around, realign it to the corner. Now we have a quarter arch. And then we take that, and we clone it, and we flip it, we've got a half arch. Or a full arch, you might otherwise say. It's in a half circle. So we're going to func detail all of these, and I'm going to fit it over the generator room. So it looks like that. I feel like I want it slightly higher than that. There. Okay, that looks alright. So now we just need to extend these walls a little bit. Because this is the func details, obviously it doesn't seal your map against the void. Oh, bollocks. Every single time I do that, I forget it's still set to arch. Right, so this func detail doesn't seal your map from the void, so you have to make sure that you encompass it with brushes. Which is what we're doing now. Right, I'm going to align these walls with the end of the arch for now, because we're going to have some extra bits of the room poking out there. We'll get to in a minute. Is that alright? Oh yeah, that's okay. It's not actually, doesn't need to go as far, it needs to be down to there, so I can more accurately see what the dimensions of the internals of the room are. Okay, so let's orange this up for now. Sort out all the textures in a minute. Okay, that is already looking quite a lot more interesting than it used to. Okay, one interesting and useful thing I find when I'm attempting to make architecture that looks more interesting than just a box is kind of cutting notches in walls and stuff is quite a good way to do that. So instead of just pulling all the way down, putting a door in there and calling it done, we can bring out a little bit more shape in the room, which will basically mean we're going to do it by the dimensions of the floor. We can give a little bit of extra space here, and then I'm going to do the same on the other side, because it's going to have these are the bits that are going to branch off into the separate rooms. So then if you do kind of introduce more variation into the shape of your floor plan, that's a good first step for helping rooms to stop just looking like boxes. Even with an arch over the top, it still is basically a rectangle. So that's going to help add a bit of variety in there. I'm just going to put the ceiling from the void with a ceiling. There we go. And then what we're going to do with these is pull them out a bit. Same on this side. And I think this end, certainly these kind of notch bits, where, oh, okay, yes, I know what we'll do. Bear with me. Pull this over to the end, and then we're going to cut a hole into the side of the arch, in line with these bits that we've just drawn. So keep both halves of that, and then we're going to say, okay, how high do we want the ceilings to be here? I'm going to say, there's a lot of crap on that view. I'm going to say about, so that's 128. Let's say maybe that much. And then we're going to ignore groups mode and just, okay, so it's these bits we want to cut out. Remove them. Thankfully, this is all aligned to a grid spot, a grid line, I should say. So we move this up. Also, turn that off. I'm going to go like this, and that's way too far. We're going to align it with the plane that we just cut, like that. And then what we can do, just so I can get a sense of scale and make sure this is all working as it should be, let's put a door in here. Right. Look at door main metal small, that one. Okay. Maybe have it about there. I'll probably tweak the position of it in a bit. Then steal this frame. I need better frames because that frame is built to match the other door. Metal door frame. I suppose this one has a frame. Okay, well I'll just use the metal door frame, it's fine. Just cancel that. And put it there. That's not aligned. This door, oh, this door's smaller. Okay, I don't want the small one, I want the big one. Oh, alright then. Forget about the metal doors completely, we'll just we'll use this one. Because it actually fits in the frame that is designed for it. That's good. Okay, cool. Right, what I'm going to do is, okay, that's the right hand tunnel, so we're going to say branch right door. And because we want to open up routes rather than lock down routes, we want to set up this door so that it starts off being locked, and then we will add outputs to the relevant logic relay to unlock it when it's supposed to be unlocked. Okay, so that means got start locked and also start unbreakable, so that player infected or AI infected can't just randomly break through the door. That would not be ideal. I'm also going to shift this up one so that it's flush with the wall. Okay. One other thing I'll do, yeah, I'll do it now. What I'm going to do is basically put a wooden blocker over where the door handle is. So basically what we're doing here is the kind of general convention in quite a lot of games, but I know specifically in the Half-Life games, is to have what they call hardware on doors that you can open, so door handles and stuff. And so it becomes so ingrained into players, that particular model, if you see a door handle on a door, that means you can open the door. that if you have a door handle on the door and you're not able to open the door, it's quite confusing. So what I'm putting in here is a piece of wood which basically stops you from being able to see the door handle and makes it obvious that the door is blocked so you can't go through it. And then when we open up the root, we will basically kill that brush. So I'm going to use this and rotate it. I'm going to resize it slightly as well. Oh, okay. Yeah, I should have been on 8 unit grid lines anyway, but I wasn't. That looks like there. Right, so we'll do that. And I'll go back after grid size 8. We're going to make it a funk brush. Going to, where's the shadows? Okay, it doesn't cast light shadows, that's fine. Don't want it to cast normal shadows either because they're going to look weird. Generally, unless you've got something that is like a player where you expect to see dynamic shadows. If you've got a dynamic prop that is basically static, but you can see the dynamic shadow because it's very different from the light map shadows, it just looks odd, so I just had to turn them off. Right, we need to name this door, I'm going to call it bar, and we also need a nav blocker which we'll put in later. Okay, so that starts enabled and then we'll disable it. Right, so that's the right hand side. We go to the right hand relay and we say okay, when the right hand relay is fired, we choose that, that was not what I wanted to do. When we choose that route, we will unlock the door and we will kill off the wooden blocker. Door, unlock, trigger, wooden block, kill. What do I want to disable? Kill's fine, I'm never going to undo what I'm doing. As soon as you choose one of those routes, you commit to it for the rest of the map, so that's fine. One other thing we want to do is in terms of the nav blocker, right, hide that. Is that the nav blocker? Yeah, okay. So we can cheat slightly here. It's not, I don't know, it's arguable whether you call it cheating, but it's just an easier way to do this. So we're not going to create a different entity because these are only ever going to be blocking or unblocking as one. It's not like we're going to need them to be independent, so I'm just going to create an extra trigger here for the nav blocker, make sure it's more or less aligned. And then what I'm going to do is select this down here and tie it, add it to the existing entity. So that is now all one nav blocker. The brushes don't have to be co-located, you could have one right on the other side of the map if it made sense to do so. And here it makes sense to have them as part of the same thing, so that's the way I'm going to do it. Get rid of that module for now. And then I'll just put in some quick and dirty wall for the moment. Align it. Put it on the other side as well. Okay, that's too far. I've overextended the roof. Okay. Then add this last bit on the top. Right, then we can clone the non-dynamic bits over to the other side. That's not, oh, that's too far forward. It's not in there. probably want that as well. Then I'm going to hide that. I'll copy these and we will rename them on the other side. No, I haven't got that right. There we go. Okay, so that's now the left door. And that is now the left door bar. Okay, and then what we'll do is basically add the do the equivalent of what we did for the right hand relay, but with the left hand one. Left door, unlock. Oh, there's one thing I've forgotten to do that I'll do for both of them in a second. If you can guess what it is, well done. We started out with the making these doors unbreakable. So when we enable the roots, we need to make them breakable again, otherwise survivors can just shut zombies out indefinitely, and that would sort of break the game. And then I'll add a nav block as the other one as well. So door, set breakable. I'm assuming the counterpart to set breakable is set unbreakable? Yeah, okay, cool. So set breakable will be fine. That's the right hand side. Left hand side, do the same thing. Okay. Right, and now I'm going to ignore groups, copy this over because it'll be quicker than drawing out another brush. Sure that's aligned, and then we'll just do the same trick that we did before. Hide, hide. That is the nav blocker. We're going to tie this to that entity, and we're done. Right. So the rooms I haven't actually made yet, but I will do. I'm going to add a little bit of flooring under that door. What I find is useful to do is make the floor that specifically lies under the door, make that its own little strip, its own brush, because usually you want to texture that slightly differently with some kind of maybe metal door trim or something, which looks, in my opinion, quite a lot better than just having the random concrete come up to the whichever side of the door it is. It just acts as a kind of a border between the two different floor types, which is more realistic. So that's our side doors done. We'll connect these up. I don't know whether I'll get round to that today because I've got less than half an hour left before I'm going to have to go on to a different online game with friends. But what I will do is add in the items that I want in this room, and maybe we'll try and texture it as well. So what I do want to have in this room is some ammo and some tier 2 shotguns. So what we're going to do, go prop static, and make ourselves a table. Picnic, cafe, blah, 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 blah. There's a nice like heavy duty table here somewhere. Not quite that one. Oh, I'm right at the bottom of the list. That's the one. It's even called heavy table. Right, so make sure that's flush on the floor, which it is. Let's place that down the middle, and we're going to have again another little kind of alcove that'll have its own light that will basically block into the shape of this room. So something like that. I'm going to widen it in a second. Make it 176. Right. Okay, and then what we'll do is start stacking the wall around the side again, so I can get a bit of a sense of how the dimensions of the room are going to look. Like that. Further. Do the same for that side. Okay, good. It's not attracting anything. And then we can decide on essentially how high the little ceiling bit's going to be here. I'll tell you what, let's just make it aligned with the other one, given we've committed to sort of that general height. It's going like that, and then I'll put something back. Cool. Okay. Looking at it now, I think it's a bit tall that way and a bit narrow. So I'm going to use Vertex Manipulation. Basically stretch this out maybe to about there and there. And then I think I'm going to bring it down there. There. And then just for the last finishing touch, I'm going to put a 24 by 24 oblong in there, and then we'll cut it in half. Just to sort of bevel the top. Is bevel the right word to use in that circumstance? I hope so. Okay, that looks nicer, I think. Okay, and what we'll do is get ourselves some ammo. The ammo will be on that side of the table. I need to set a model for it. Yeah, that'll do. Interestingly, something that I found which may be useful to people trying to diagnose bugs. In order for a safe room to count as a safe room, there has to be an ammo box on part of the nav which is considered within that safe room. And so if you've got an ammo, or an ammo pickup I suppose I should call it, if you've got an ammo pickup on a table and the table hasn't got any navigation mesh on it, it might start fucking with your safe rooms. So if that helps anyone, it certainly took me a while to work that out a few years back. Okay, now what we're going to do is, because I don't know how the shotgun is actually going to look when it's lying on the table, I'm going to get myself a prop. I mean, it doesn't matter what prop it is, so I'm going to be changing the entity type in a second, but just something so that I can see the model for the shotgun, and then I'm going to put it in a position that makes sense on the table, and then I'm going to turn it into a weapon spawn entity, because then it turns it back into sort of a generic, I can't remember what model it is, whether it's a fire axe or something stupid, but you know that we placed it in a manner that looked correct for the weapon we were trying to put down. So let me get that there and push it a little bit, and then one other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to copy and paste, where is it? There it is. Copy and paste that, stick a little light on the table, because I think it would complete the look. Always making sure that it is actually in contact with the table. Very easy to forget to do that. That there. now we go and change this to weapon spawn. Okay, it turns into just a random rifle. Going to remove that, which doesn't affect the model that's actually displayed in any way. I don't know why. And then we're going to change it to any tier 2 shotgun. And the shotgun models, I'm pretty sure, are similar enough that it's not going to look shit if you spawn the other one in that we didn't directly check. So that is the continuity, not continuity, the point where, I mean, you've come through here, you probably haven't seen much ammo or weapons for a while, so that would be a point to say, okay, good, we've got ammo here, we've got a weapon we can swap to. I'm not going to give everyone full tier 2s just yet, because there are some other, I think there's one other point where weapon pickups happen, so here. But it's just like a starter of saying, oh, we're actually starting to get tier 2 weapons now. This is like getting near to halfway through the campaign. So that's there, and then we'll have the extra goodies in the side rooms, depending on which one the director chooses to open up. So before we do those rooms, because I'd actually want to get some video evidence of me doing some detailing, we're going to choose how to detail this room. Got some Brewdog Hazy Jane, by the way, and it's really nice. I think it's come out recently. It's like my favourite one of theirs so far. Okay, so first of all, what are we going to use as the general texture scheme in this room? In previous places, I think which I think I've shown before, I've used kind of bricks. I wanted to have kind of quite either dirty bricks or sort of reddish, generally kind of dirty bricks, because this is supposed to be underground. It's not somewhere that gets cleaned. It's like a sewer and there's water running through it and all sorts. So I wanted the kind of like this stuff is kind of grey. Stuff up here is quite sort of, it's rough. It's sort of a coarse brick texture. I think my favourite one for this area is that one, because it's got some, the texture has some texture to it, you might say. It's got nice sort of bump mapping. It looks very grimy. The only thing is it doesn't tile very well at all. That is the extent of that texture. And you can see the kind of the staining at the top get repeated if you start plastering over other walls. Like that one. So unfortunately I'm not able to use that much. There's not really a very nice tileable version of that texture. But let's put in wall and see what we've got. Maybe this one? I don't think I've used the one with the kind of the metal girder down the side. I'm interested to see how that would work with the archway we've got going on. Could work. I don't think I'll use it on the end though. There's actually a version of this which doesn't have that. I don't think there is. Oh, that's annoying. Okay. Fine. No, we'll go with something else. What about white? I don't think we've gone for white yet. Is there a tileable version of that doesn't have the grimy bit at the bottom? I think, yeah, that's 3A, that's 3B. Okay, so that should be fine. So we align that with the bottom. Okay, we're going to have to trim this as well. Trim it to 128, because that's usually when textures at 0.25 scale start to tile. Okay. Then what we can do is swap over to 3A, which is that one. We'll do that. So we've got some griminess at the bottom, and then the rest of it tiles nicely. Looks a bit like an igloo. I'll just stick with it for now and see whether we can add any more colour and variation in through other things, as opposed to trying to get it just in with the texture. I think we can have some cables go across here. We can have some struts and things. So I'm going to continue texturing the rest of the room with this for now. Oh, we have to do the same thing here. Think we can get away with that? Yeah, it's fine. Oh, I'm doing it. That's the wrong one. Okay. Cool. Oh, and this bit as well. Okay. There's a debate to be had here about whether we want to keep the brick for the ceiling here or whether we want to swap it with something else. I think I like it as that because it kind of feels like you've tunnelled into the material that was used to make the arch rather than putting something specific there. But we can always put some metal girders and shit in. So okay, floor. That was a very nice floor actually that I remember using as a ceiling. There it is. I'm going to use that one. I think that would suit this. Cool. Is that nice and yeah? Equidistant either side of the door. Satisfies my OCD for aligning textures. It's all good. One thing we're missing here is I need to add that. There we go. Awesome. Okay. So looking all right now. It's looking less orange. It could do with some extra bits and pieces. I said I was going to put some metal frameworks in, so let's do that. Again, we're going to be making use of the arch tool. And what we can do now, it's going to be a little bit easier than making the arch roof because we do want to retain the width of the arch. So what we can do, now that we've got the kind of dimensions of the room, is that's 576 wide, we're going to go 576 tall as well. Just there. And I'm going to say I want an arch and I want 32 sides to it because that was how many we used in the first place. And we're going to make it 16 wide. Okay. And I'm going to make it slightly narrower than it is. Maybe 24. Yeah, there we go. That's looking quite nice already, even before we textured it. One thing I will do is trim off the bottom. And then we'll add some straight sides. Add that. Bollocks, done it again. Add that in a way that doesn't make a mutilated arch. Copy it over there. What the fuck? Why is this not aligned to the grid? What the hell's going on? Yeah, sometimes when you create primitives like arches, Hammer just decides it's not going to align them properly. What is going on? Stop it. Okay. Right, and if you fuck detail it, suddenly the alignment goes back to normal. It's fine now. Anyway, thanks, whatever your name was who made Hammer for Quake in the first place. Let's have a look. Right, let's make the metal one, and then we can put some struts into it as well. So, don't fancy that. Oh, I did make something with this, which then I ended up removing. So I'm going to use this texture here instead. So, let's just experiment a bit with the, there we go. It just happened to hit on the correct width. Gonna make that equal. Okay, so that surface on the inside is the easy one. These bits, not quite as easy, because you need to basically align the texture with that slope. There are two ways to do that. You can break 360 degrees into 32 different sections and calculate all that with the Windows calculator and trigonometry, and make sure that you go through each one of those and align it correctly, which is how I used to do it when I gave a shit. These days I don't. So we're going to be doing it by eye. And we'll be scaling that back down to 0.25 so that we get, okay, maybe 2.7. Yeah, there we go, that's fine. Right, so those are okay. One into the right. Fine. Now, I'm gonna do this until it looks roughly okay, and then progressively tweak it. Oh, amazing. First time. Maybe. Yeah, see, that one's a bit wonky now. 17? 17 will do. Okay, that's fine. My argument for doing it this way is no one is going to care. They're all going to be trying to fight zombies. They're not going to be going, unless you're me, you're not be going, oh, that textures on the arch is very slightly misaligned. It looks like they just did it by eye. Okay, this is acceptable. The good news is that the only kind of tedious calibration work is done on one sort of semicircle of this arch, because once you know what the rotations are, you can propagate into the other side just by inverting the sideness of the angle that we're rotating at here. Okay, that one is going to be awkward. Okay, that'll do. So, then you just go, oh, minus 85? I think you mean 85. And then it's okay. And then do the same. And then, of course, once you've done this for both sides, you can take, for example, that, apply it to the other side, and it's exactly the same. So that helps. You just got to make sure that you actually get it right. So I think that's the one. Is that right? Okay, no, I was just a bit off the first time. Try it again. The modern programs would say, we're running on a computer, we can do all this stuff quite quickly, in, you might say, a fraction of a second. We can do it for you, so we will. We'll save you from spending minutes and hours of your life performing menial tasks by typing random numbers into controls on your screen, but Hammer makes you do the legwork yourself. So you just have to suck it up and get on with it, which is what we're doing now. The good news is once you've done it once, if we can clone this or move it somewhere else, we can switch texture lock on, which will maintain all of the angles that we've been pasting these textures on at. So we don't have to do this again unless we happen to maybe make an arch with a different number of segments to it, or with a different texture that needs different alignment or whatever. Okay, cool. So that's that. Right. Let's switch lock on. What I'm going to do is move this to here. And then move it to this end. And then middle. Does that look alright? Yeah, that's, okay, let's cheat and find out where the middle is. That's where the middle is. Okay. Now, what I'm also going to do is be quite anal and no draw all of the sides here. Now the interesting thing to note is if you have a Funk Detail brush face that is flush with another Funk Detail brush face, you don't need to no draw the faces in between because they will just be deleted. Similarly, if you have a world brush that is flush with another world brush, then the faces in between will be deleted. If you have a Funk Detail that is flush with a world brush, those faces will not be deleted. So you have to, if you want to delete them, make them no draw, which is what I've done there. The technical reasons for that are due to how the BSP compiler works, which I now know quite a lot more about than I used to after having to make an import process for some Nightfire BSP files, but I won't bore you with the details here because it gets quite technical. So those arches are looking nice. One other thing I'll do is make some, I'll use the same texture and I'll make some struts that kind of come across and we can maybe hang some lights from them. That high will be about right. So at the moment it's cutting straight across, we don't care. Because what we can do is, I said these are actually all on grid lines, which means that we can clip these because we actually know what the planes are. We just have to follow it from point to point on the arch. We do that, and then we do the same on this side. Nice. Okay. Now that's going to be very difficult to translate and keep aligned to the grid. So I'm going to use another hammer cheat. Keep that next. I'm going to go and close it in a brush volume that does align to the grid. So then when we do translations, the hammer will align the outer brush to the grid, and the inner brush will stay in the same place relative to it, like so, as opposed to like attempting to align that point to the grid. Technically, I guess it's aligned to the one grid, but I can't be asked to go down that far, so this is the next best way. Right, and then I'm in the habit of using skip for this. You could use any texture really, but skip A is transparent, and B, if you leave it in, it's completely discarded by the BSP compiler. So if you forget to take one out, or you can just leave it in for hammer purposes, it'll just get compiled out when you compile them out, so you don't have to worry about it. So now I'm going to add these to the other Funk Detail entities, and then we're going to steal the texture. No, it's 90 degrees, and align it to right, like so many things are becoming these days. And then we can steal some of that, there, and there, and there. Right, that is already looking quite a lot better. I'm liking that. I like the way that the sort of borders intersect with each other. What I will do is provide a little bit of scaffolding in between them, which is basically where these three things are going to start to be joined into one great big lovely Funk Detail. 24. Align that. I think I'll bring that in a little bit. It's slightly too far out. There will do. Right, and then basically I'm going to find out how far that is away from the wall. It is 160. And then we're going to move this over to there. We're going to find out what 160 is. There. We're going to align that. And we're going to take these, clone them, so they're over there. Take that all, and I forgot to include that bit. Right. And now we can use the texture alignment from that. Put it on there. And we can take that, rotate it 90 degrees, and align it to the left. Cool. That, I think, looks quite good. As the last thing, it's hit 8 o'clock now, I'm going to add in a couple of lights. I'm thinking long fluorescent lights, not like that, maybe like them? Why are there two different styles? They look almost completely the same. I'm sure there are better ones. Where are the better ones? Lighthouse railing, let's get back to here. Like farm light or something like that. Oh, that one. There we go. Okay, light shop, whatever. Skin 0 is the on skin. It's annoyingly inconsistent. Some things have skin 0 as on, some things have skin 1 as on. So sometimes you have to create two logic relays if you want to combine those lights together and be able to turn them on and off. We're going to align this once to the correct vertical height and then do the rest through the top view. Basically, gonna put the cross that represents the center of the light on top of the cross that represents the center of the beam. And again, there. Cool. Now, the interesting topic of lighting, which I've learnt a fair bit about now. There's one of my friends who's a lighting artist for Rocksteady. We actually sat at the computer a while back, a couple of months back, while we were stuck in lockdown doing fuck all, and he was teaching me how to actually put lights in your level with some purpose. So the purpose for this room, I think, is, okay, we've already got a light here that highlights the exit. So we don't need to necessarily be spotlighting any sort of exit doors or the direction it's supposed to go. So what I'd quite like to do is basically make use of contrast to make it pretty, really, I think is going to be the tactic here. Because I used to just kind of put enough lights entities in to make the room seem relatively uniformly lit and be done with it. But what we can actually do is start to play with the settings a bit to give a bit of contrast. So what we're going to do, I think, is, okay, the first thing is choose what type of light you're going to have. These ones are going to be spotlights because the actual model for this is very directional. We've got these sort of reflectors on the side, so they point down. It's going to be creating a cone. That is not the one I wanted. Not a point spotlight, a light spot. So we're going to make one of them. We're going to align it to the center and turn that on so I can see exactly where I'm putting it. Actually, you know what? I'm going to put in two of these. I'm going to put one there, I'm going to put one there. Basically what that means is that instead of being one circle of light, we've now got a slightly sort of oval cone that will more accurately match the shape of the light model itself, and that will be even more pronounced when I make the following changes. We're going to go in here, we're going to look at inner bright angle and outer fading angle. So basically what that is if you think of, if you like connect your thumb and finger so that you make a circle with your hand and then shine a light through that onto a surface, you'll see there's a point in the middle where all of the light is going through, and then around the outside it will kind of fall off a bit in a similar way to kind of the way a torch looks, because the light that you're shining through is not actually coming from a point, it's a light that is emitted from an area. So like the end of a torch, it kind of comes out from the area that is being illuminated by the filament of the light bulb, and that means that in certain places all of the light will be shining where it's directly visible, and then some of the light will be shining around the edge, but other bits of the light will be blocked by the aperture, which is your hand in that case. And basically this just simulates what that looks like. So if you go and change the inner bright angle to 15, the hammer's not very good at displaying this. I think that changes that bit there. So basically we'll decide what the kind of hot spot in the middle of the light is going to be like in terms of how far it's shining out, and then the other one obviously changes the width of the cone. Now that's going to look ridiculous because it's going to be tiny. We need more spread than that. I think maybe 35. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make this quite wide, so that the kind of the softer light ends up going further out. But I'm going to keep this inner angle quite small, so it's going to kind of diffuse out onto the floor. And then we're also going to change what the colour looks like. So after going through the previous section that's been potentially quite inhospitable, this is going to be a slightly safer place because you're going to get some ammo, you get some weapons, and it's a bit more closed off. So in order to connote safety, even though it doesn't necessarily correspond to the colour of light that would be coming out of a light bulb like that, I'm going to choose a warmer colour, just sort of a tinge of orange and of white. And then I'm going to make this maybe, say 400. May have to tweak that as time goes on. And then basically what I'm hoping is going to happen is that these are going to be bright enough that it will shine light down, and then the VRAD process, when it simulates the light, some of the light will reflect off the surfaces, and I'm hoping that that will go and hit other walls and other surfaces in the room and kind of help illuminate the rest of the room without me having to put an extra light underneath, like a radial light, and we'll be able to get enough light in this room without having to resort to doing that. But that's something we have to test. So we'll take these and close them. One other thing that some people do is use point spotlights and put one at each end, which then makes it look really weird, like it's supposed to be emitting light uniformly along this fluorescent tube, but then you've got like a bright spot here and a bright spot here and nothing in between. And from my TF2 maps days, people hated that in terms of like mappers themselves. It was like the Comic Sans of the mapping world. So I'm not going to do that here. I don't think there's enough light coming out of these to warrant putting like a corona on it, especially not in current times. So I'm going to leave that as it is. This one's got a sprite because I think it's a more kind of focused light, whereas this one's more spread out, so I don't think it needs it. So I think I'll leave it there. Obviously this isn't quite detailed as fully as it should be, but I have other commitments I need to get to quite soon. What I think I would do, moving on from here, is we could have a couple of metal struts coming down to like some columns. We could have some cables, especially this is a generator room. We could have some cables going to a main kind of switch box or something, and the cables coming along to provide power to these lights. So that'd be something quite cool to do. I think I'd want to maybe place some overlays and some decals and stuff for extra kind of stains, particularly maybe around here, to imply that people have actually been actively using this to escape from zombies from the other side of the map. And then, yeah, obviously we'll be looking at the side rooms as well. If I start making them and I'm in a position to record another video, then I will do, because I'd quite like, to be honest, to get back into more of these things. I think it would be, I mean, it's good in general, and also being stuck inside a lot more these days, thanks to the coronavirus. It's something to do, something to keep me going and have a bit of a hobby and make it a bit more worthwhile if I can share some of the stuff I've been learning how to do and practicing how to do in Hammer, then hopefully it'll be better for everyone. So that's it, I think. I'm going to head off and play some games. Hopefully I will see